Well, yes, the Boston Celtics finally got over the hump and won an NBA championship after literal years of struggles, hardships, and outright choke jobs with an extremely talented roster. And I must admit, I was wrong about their ability to do so and cash in last year, even with what was an impossibly loaded roster. And yes, Kristaps Porzingis isn't playing, who is the Celtics' third best player if we are getting technical, and a very important player at that, as they do lack frontline depth overall, which is in reality their only true weakness. The more and more we see of this Celtics team this season, the more and more it must beg the question of if that title a year ago was just a fluke. Was that a product of them finally getting over the hump, or was it more so a commentary on one of the weakest playoff runs in league history? Oh, perhaps not by sheer record of opponents, but certainly when you factor in all of the injuries the Eastern Conference had in the playoffs along the way to get Boston into the finals, where they got a Dallas Mavericks team that looked like a 6th seed from the West who were just happy to be there. Now the Celtics come charging into this season as overwhelming title odds to defend that questionable chip from a year ago. And again, with this roster, why not? Especially when you look at the sheer breadth and totality of that putrid-ass conference they reside in, where after a solid 3 full weeks of play, there are only 2 teams over 500 currently. There were even rumblings to start the year, and still frankly are, that Jason Tatum is on some kind of a scorched earth tour to prove his doubters wrong once and for all and claim the regular season MVP award. He was, after all, number 2 ranked on NBA.com's most recent Kia MVP ladder rankings, and as of tip-off of last night's game against the Atlanta Hawks, had the 3rd best odds in Vegas to take home the award. Now, sure, there is no doubt some level of complacency that can settle in during the regular season for a team defending a title, especially a team that is so much more talented than the entire field. But seriously, how the hell does this Celtics team have 3 losses already? I mean, a 6-point loss to Golden State, excusable. Even a 3-point loss to Indiana, understandable. But a loss to the Atlanta Hawks last night, unforgivable. The 4-7 when entering the night Atlanta Hawks, that is. The now 5-7 Atlanta Hawks, who were without Trae Young. The Atlanta Hawks, who were 16.5-point underdogs playing in Boston. And not just in any game, mind you, this was the opening night of the Emirates NBA Cup group play.
What?
You know, the in-season tournament cup thing from a year ago that the league offices rigged for the Lakers? Yeah, well, it's back, and it started last night. Now, of course, every viable championship contender is likely not going to take this thing remotely seriously, as was the case last season, where the Final 4 in last year's tournament, the Lakers, Pelicans, Bucks, and Pacers, largely went absolutely nowhere in the actual real playoffs. Sure, the Pacers did navigate the barren, injury-depleted Eastern Conference wasteland to make it into the Eastern Conference Finals, where they could serve as sacrificial lambs to these Boston Celtics, but the remaining 3 teams of the finalists from a year ago, the Lakers, Bucks, and Pelicans, combined to win 3 playoff games total amongst all 3 of them. What I am saying is, this pitiful little tournament isn't for the real teams, it's for non-contenders to get a confidence-boosting participation trophy. So while Boston isn't going to lose any sleep over this one, nor should they, is it asking too much to show up and beat a 17-point underdog on your home court in a game that they were leading by 15 points in the second half of? Especially when said underdog underdog was without their best player for the game, instead led by household name Dyson Daniels, who scored a career-high 28 points, while Mr. supposed league MVP Jason Tatum had 20 points on 5 of 16 shooting. Same old sorry-ass Celtics. And now Boston, who ran away with the conference and league's best record a year ago, is 3 full games behind the 12-0 Cleveland Cavaliers. While the Celtics could literally sleepwalk their way into the East Finals this year, these are the same things, the same puzzling losses that haunted them in their playoff collapses in past seasons, and truthfully were still problematically looming for them a year ago at times. But no teams presented themselves along the way of their run last year that could capitalize on those things and push them. This year, though, could prove to be a different story, especially with what the Cavs are building in Cleveland currently and whatever is brewing out west. While it might be too soon to tell on that front, one thing is readily apparent after last night, and that is Jason Tatum doesn't belong anywhere near an MVP trophy.